Well, hey, welcome to your next week of class, week 5. So what you'll see behind me is not this week's background. It's actually the police academy room that I'm staying at. So they've done some upgrades. So we now have hotel-looking beds and things like that. But the internet connection still stinks, and the food is still always cold. So they may have improved where we sleep, but not how we live here. So, I want to talk to you guys about a couple things today. We're going to go over some of the text for your quiz for this week. But in reading your reports, I just wanted to discuss some things with you. First off, I'm going to be putting out a sample report. I'll send it to you guys in an announcement of how I wrote the police narrative for the video that you watched this week for the discussion board. But I saw a lot of comments in there about whether or not the police officer should have reacted that way, or if he was overly aggressive and things like that. And I kind of wanted to address that. And I can't really say it has that much to do with report writing, but it has a lot to do with being a police officer and being in the law enforcement field. And as a police chief and a police law enforcement professional, I think it's important for me to give you some words of advice in this. What did the officer do that was procedurally wrong? What procedure did he violate? I don't know what the procedures for the Utah State Highway Patrol are, but I can tell you after watching that video, the normal police department policy and procedure manual would not have prevented that officer from doing anything that he did procedurally. Now, the problem is that in law enforcement, many times it's not what we do, it's how we do it. So what we do is correct. If I have a suspect who I've told to turn around, put their hands behind their back, they're under arrest, and they begin to walk away from me and indicate to me that they may flee, well, then I'm going to tase them. And that's not because I'm a jerk. That's not because whatever. It's because I have this tool on my belt that will keep me from having to get within arm's distance of someone. Because I don't know if he hasn't been patted down. I don't know if he has a gun. I don't know if he has a knife that will pull out and stick me with. I don't know if he's going to try to hop in his car and take off down the road. If you want to watch a good video that in response to this, you can watch the Quito brothers from Ohio. And it was almost an exact same incident. The driver was giving the officer an earful, kept the officer talking, kept the officer at bay, while his passenger loaded up a gun. All of a sudden, the guy started to walk backwards, just like this guy did, towards the car door to get in to escape. And as he did that, his partner came, or his passenger came from the passenger side and opened fire on the police officers. So, procedurally, does the officer have the right to tase someone as they're walking away from him? Yeah, I think he does. Let's talk about signing the ticket. Are you required to sign a ticket? Well, that comes back to your department policies and procedures and your personal preference. I'll tell you, my agency, when I first got started in law enforcement, people had to sign the ticket. That was a requirement. And let me tell you why. When you are arrested, when you're given a traffic citation, you've actually been placed under arrest for a short period of time. And what I'm doing when I issue that ticket, I'm saying that you violated this law, but I'm going to release you without taking a bond from you. When you get arrested, let's say you get arrested for drug dealing, you get taken to jail. Well, the Constitution says we just can't keep you forever. You have the right to post bail or post a bond to get out. It says the judge will say, okay, you give me $3,000 to guarantee that you'll show up, and if you show up to court, then you'll get your $3,000 back. Well, for a minor traffic offense, what you're saying is I can take you to jail and hold you for that bond. In most jurisdictions, some are not like this, but I'm assuming in Utah it is. I know in Ohio it was. I'm saying you have to sign this ticket because by signing this, you're giving me your word that you will show up in court. It's what's called an OR bond, or own recognizance bond. If you don't sign that, that's fine. I'll take you to jail, and and you'll post a $150 bond, and then you'll get out of jail. And if you don't show up in court, we keep your $150. You know, so that's what was happening there. So when the officer says sign this, he says, no, I'm not going to sign it. He's refusing to sign the bond. The officer has the right to take him into custody. So once again, we have an issue of what the officer did may have been procedurally correct, but it's not what he did, it's how he did it. Instead of walking up and saying, sir, I need you to sign the citation for speed or whatever, and the guy goes, I'm not going to sign it, then the officer can say, sir, this is an OR bond. By refusing to sign the citation, now we're required by our department policy and procedures to take you into custody and transport you to the jail. Now, sir, will you please sign this or choose to go to jail? What choice would you like to make? I think that probably would have solved this whole issue. If the officer would have said, sir, I'm taking you to jail because you failed to sign your OR bond, turn around and place your hands behind your back. I'm placing you in custody. And the gentleman would have started backing up. It would have said, sir, stop or I will taser you. And then he keeps walking back. And that will probably, in our policy and procedures, we have to announce taser, taser, taser 3 times before we taser. So I'm going to say taser, taser, taser. And I'm going to taser the guy. So it's not, once again, I cannot stress this enough to you as a police chief. It is not what you do, it's how you do it. Because we are now videotaped. And maybe you don't have a dash cam in your car. That person's got, man, look at this right here. Who doesn't have a cell phone now? There's a couple people out there, you know, there's a couple, but most people have this, and what is on every one of these out there? A video camera. So you might not have the camera rolling, but I'll tell you what, they got the camera rolling, and they're going to capture what you say. And when you go into court, yeah, you might win in a criminal court, but in a civil case, you're not going to win that. A good example of this is in this case, the gentleman won $40,000. Now we say, oh my goodness, he got $40,000 for that. I'll tell you, $40,000 is a pretty low settlement. You got to factor in about half of that $40,000 is going to go to his attorneys for attorney fees. So now you're looking at $20,000. Things the lawsuit stretched on for a couple of years, so you got to figure he had to go stay in hotels to do testimonies and things like that. So it knocked off about $3,000 to $5,000 for traveling and that kind of thing. And then you got to figure Uncle Sam took 1/3 of a settlement like that. So he's walking out with maybe $5,000 in his pocket. Still a lot of money. I mean, he made $5,000 off of a traffic stop and off of getting tasered. But why did he get the $40,000? Because of the officer's attitude, the things that he said, the things that he said after the traffic stop, talking about having to, you know, he rode the taser and that kind of stuff. You know, those kind of comments are getting us as police officers in trouble. I highly recommend to every one of you to take a course called Verbal Judo. I took it as a police chief. I took it, and I wish I would have taken it when I was a patrol officer, because it taught us how to avoid this specific situation. Verbal Judo does. It takes you through a 5-step process to generate voluntary compliance. And in doing so, your video, you may still end up tasering the guy. In this case, this guy could have still been tasered. But if this officer would have followed the principles of Verbal Judo, then guy wouldn't have got any money, because the principles of Verbal Judo would have ensured that that video, the officer would have looked very professional. He would have used professional language, professional speech. He would have presented the man with some options. So if you're going into law enforcement, my strong recommendation to you is Verbal Judo. Look it up. See if you can find a class somewhere near you. It's an expensive course, but it will change your career as a law enforcement officer. So with that said, let's get into the chapter.